guys, welcome to the Tower Babble Game of Thrones breakdown for Season 4, Episode 5, First of His Name. As always, I'm Julian. I'm joined by my fellow Game of Thrones fan, Daniel.
Yo.
How are you doing, Dan? Good?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Doing good.
For those new to the show, we discuss the show as a show, and don't spoil anything for future episodes. I've never read the books. Dan has, but he's sworn an oath to never spoil anything. So, no worries there. Also, hey, if you've been listening to the show for the past couple weeks, I guess maybe since the beginning of Season 4, and you've been liking it, go follow us on Twitter at TowerBabblecast, that's BABBLE, and subscribe and like us on iTunes. That one's a big one.
Rate and review.
Yeah, that's the big rate and review. Is that
that's what they
say?
It.
Yeah,
that's what the pros say.
Well, we're pros-ish, right?
Now now that we said it, we are.
Or like, were we amateurs before, and now we're pros?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we got housekeeping out of the way. It usually takes like 30 seconds tops, right? So we'll jump right in to this week's episode. So this is the 5th episode. We're halfway through the season. So that's pretty, like, it always feels like it goes by so fast, you know? Like, we just started, and now we're only...
It's weird how stuff like the episodes kind of, a lot of them have felt so slow, yet... Yeah, we're already halfway through, and technically, if you look back, there's a lot that's been happening. So yeah, like 2-3 big things have happened, right? But then you'll have those weird, like the first episode was kind of slow, and then this episode, not a lot of plot development, but some good character work. So there's nothing we can really. Yeah. But it never feels like when you're watching it, like you're like, oh, this is boring. No,
like,
it doesn't.
And then you get to the end, you're like,
There's been like 2 times maybe I felt that way. And they're probably Sansa chapters.
Are they called chapters?
I call them that. Or Sam.
Scenes.
Yeah, scenes.
Chapters from the book, Dan. Okay.
Yeah. I see how it works.
So we'll start in King's Landing, because that's where the episode starts. And Tommen's getting his crown, so he's being it's a coronation, right? Yeah. Everyone starts yelling, "Long may he reign!" Everyone's having a good time. It seems like he's kind of checking out Marjorie from afar.
Yeah.
And
she planted the seed.
Yeah, and then not literally, and then. And Cersei kind of like jumps into the frame, like, "Hey, what are you looking at?" And then actually Marjorie and Cersei have like a pretty
it feels like it's going to be
together.
Cersei like trying to get in the way, like she didn't want Marjorie to have any control over Joffrey, and she realizes that Cersei is losing power, and Marjorie is going to have a lot of influence over Tommen's life, and she just wants her kid to
visually
not die.
that's what it shows. She's literally getting in between the two of them.
I know.
And it's weird because Cersei plays this completely different than she normally does. Like she's usually been so manipulative and maybe she still is in just a different way. But this is so much more. If it is, it's so much more subtle than she usually is. Maybe she's going into like the second stage of grief. You know, like it's anger and then sadness or whatever. I don't know what. I don't know what all the stages are, but I
think denial's the second stage. Or third.
Well, anyway, it's in there somewhere. Sadness is in there somewhere. You know, like depression.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, maybe that's what the point is. She's moved past the anger stage and just kind of accepted it. Because although she's moved...
Acceptance
is the last stage. She has a great line where she talks about Joffrey, and he's like, you know, he would have been your nightmare. And he says... You know exactly what he was. The things he did shocked me. You know, I'm not easily shocked. And then she said in that great, British accent that makes it sound even so much more cool. So this actually wins for my favorite scene. The first scene is my favorite scene of the episode.
Your Grace? There he is. Long may he reign. Long may he reign. He sits the throne like he was born to it. Yes. He wasn't, though, was he? No, he wasn't. You still mourn for Joffrey? He was my husband, my king. He would have been your nightmare. Your Grace, I feel... You knew exactly what he was. I did too. You never love anything in the world the way you love your first child. Doesn't matter what they do. And what he did, it shocked me. Do you think I'm easily shocked? No. The things he did shocked me. was only a boy. A good boy, a decent boy. He always has been. Who was the last decent king, I wonder? He could be the first man who sits on that throne in 50 years to actually deserve it. It would be some consolation, wouldn't it? For all the horror that put him there. He will need help. If he's going to rule well. He has you. A mother is not enough. You're still interested in being queen, I take it. After all that's happened. Sounds strange, I know, but I haven't even given any thought to it. What comes next? It would be a great honor, of course. But I will have to speak to my father about it. Yes. Speak to your father. I'll speak to mine. We may be faced with an alarming number of weddings soon. I won't even know what to call you. Sister? Or mother?
Yeah. Just everything that it's just completely different for Cersei, just the way she's acting, like, and then you have Marjorie on the other side who is being I guess not manipulative in the same way, but just trying to be like, she isn't sure, like she's usually used to Cersei being the same way, and she's kind of like, oh, this is weird, so I'm just going to play it safe, saying, oh, the great part I thought was kind of funny was when she was like, oh, you're still interested in being queen, right? Like it's like a job interview. She's like, oh no, I haven't thought about it. I haven't even thought about it. So, but it wins because it has so many layers. That's why this is my winning scene for me. And that's, I guess, a new thing for us. Picking our favorite two-person dialogue scene, like pair. Anything you have to say about this other than...
It might be my favorite as well, actually. I can't really remember the episode, so I'm trying to piece it together as we go. Generally, anything with Oberyn is my favorite, but...
Well, Oberyn does appear in this episode, but he's kind of in a more subdued role. Yeah. Again, even like with Cersei, which is not the next scene, but the scene after that. So, leading off of talking with Marjorie, kind of setting up, hey, my son's, he's not so bad. Might be the best king we've had on the throne in 50 years, is what they said. Which, makes a lot of sense. You're like, you've been used to, like, saying, go, like, let's get Dany over there, let's kick Joffrey off the throne, that'll be good. And they're like, no, hold off. This actually might not be so bad.
Tommen's a good kid. Yeah, he has a good heart,
Well,
but also that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a good king.
No, I know.
He's obviously easily manipulated, so that's not a good...
Well, he's also a kid, so of course he's easily manipulated.
So who knows what he's going to be like by the time Tywin's done with him and Marjorie's done with him.
That's true. So Cersei and Tywin continue their marriage planning. This time a little bit more low-key. They want to, like, no more... What did he say? No more 50-course meals or something like that?
77-course meals.
So no more of that, because apparently the... well, we already know that the throne is bankrupt. Like, the line is, how much? A considerable amount. And apparently the Lannisters are broke. Haven't mined any gold in quite some time.
All their wealth is kind of in loans, in like owed money kind of deal.
And it doesn't quite work the same way here.
And once they're pretty much taking over the throne, they're also kind of taking over the crown's debt. So like that they owe a lot right now, and they're just trying to seem like they don't.
Yeah, and it's like, and they're just reminding us that, like, hey, guess what? The Tyrells, only house that can compete with us as far as resources, so let's keep our enemies close, I guess.
Well, also they just need the Tyrells' resources to offset what they owe.
Yeah. And then let's take a shot, because guess who's mentioned? The Iron Bank of Bravos. I think another great line, actually, there's a couple of good lines in this episode, is that everyone lives in the shadow of the Iron Bank, even if they don't know it, which is kind of like, I guess, in this world, everyone lives in the shadow of the big banks.
Bank.
I don't see the Iron Bank of Bravos being like a central bank. I see them more of like one of those banks that's, quote unquote, too big to fail, like what happened with the whole mortgage.
Yeah,
thing.
It is. I guess it's closer to that.
They
are essentially just a big bank that everybody
has
to use. They have to. All money pretty much runs through them.
Exactly.
Or kind of has to.
So it's kind of like I can't think of any of the big bank names now from the States, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like as far as like the massive banks that control everything, and that's like just I see them as that, not so much as like the Bank of Canada or what is it in the States,
the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve, yeah. Which is kind of different than the Bank of Canada, but same idea.
Yeah.
Not that this is an economics podcast. Anyway, so Cersei seems like she's like, you know what, hey, I'm all about the family now. This whole thing's like, yeah, I'll marry Loras,
she's
whatever.
Much more.
She just seems more laid back.
She's working with him. She's not. She took a big hit when her son died, and she's.
Yeah. But I'm thinking she's not so much thinking about herself. She's usually very selfish, right? Or about her immediate family, her kids, or whatever. But now she seems to be more thinking about the family and stuff. And it just seems to me like it just is such a dramatic turn. We talked about this in the last scene too, but such a dramatic turn in her character that like there's got to be something else going on.
Yes,
like she's playing a long game.
You kind of get a piece of that in that scene with her and Tywin. She's trying to kind of get almost on Tywin's good side because she wants Tyrion dead, and he's one of the judges.
Well, I mean, it's such a weird. Okay, so that reminds me because the next scene she's talking to Oberyn, who's another judge, and he's like, Tywin's like, I'm not allowed to talk about the case or whatever, right? And so for not being allowed to talk about the case, she does a lot of talking about the case with both of these guys. Yeah. So that's not.
So she's still playing her little games, and she just
doing it a different way, which it just seems like she either lost the ability to be that subtle, or she's, I guess, just I don't know. It just seems like she hasn't done that in so long.
The thing is, her whole life she had to do that, and then after Robert died and she had all that power, maybe she got a little bit drunk with the power. Maybe she just
drunk on wine. She does drink a lot of wine.
A lot of that too. So while Joffrey was in charge, and she was basically in charge, she just could do whatever she wanted and didn't have to be subtle like this. Now she doesn't have that power, so she has to use her wiles again. You know.
How would you spell that? Wiles.
I think it's W-Y, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know either. Her feminine wiles.
I think it's W-Y.
I don't have to actually look that up.
Okay. I was actually going to.
So continuing with Cersei and her little, I guess, whatever she's doing, because we'll find out. But she goes and talks to Oberyn. They're kind of talking about Marcella, who we saw in the recap.
That was a good recap, by the way.
It was so long.
It was like really long, and it had stuff from every season.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of Sean Bean in there.
Yeah, it was good though. But like, it touched on everything you needed, because I guarantee people forgot about Marcella being sent to Dorne. And
when
stuff
the
whole
thing happened after and we had a bunch of friends over to watch it, and after the recap, I was like, that was a long recap. They're like, yeah, I didn't really follow everything that was happening there. It was like so many things. It was like, boom, hey, guess what? John Aaron died. That happened in the first episode of this series, or he was already dead.
It happened before the first,
Like all these things happen. You have there's no way you can remember that much, and it kind of does a nice job of bringing everything back together. And this whole episode does.
That's one of the biggest challenges of this show.
Touches on it, kind of brings things full circle, especially considering things happened before the beginning of the show. It connects us to now 4.5 seasons later, right? I guess almost exactly halfway through the series.
You could say that.
Going off of what they've said.
Well, I mean, we'll see, how they break it up. But
they said about 7 to 8, so if 4 would have been, I guess we're a little bit past halfway, if we're going off of that. And then they kind of talk about the case a little bit more, and then I think does Oberyn ask her if she still thinks Tyrion did killed, and she
says she knows he did.
Yeah, which is odd. It just still makes no sense to me. She's this whole time she's coming off as so much more she's thinking more for once, and then she's still so hellbent.
I guess maybe the thing is, if it's not Tyrion, and there's no way
whoever the real person is, we know it is Littlefinger, and Olenna. Okay, so
but there's zero ties to them.
That's true.
So if she lets Tyrion go because she doesn't know that he did. She doesn't know that he didn't do it just because he says he didn't do it.
Well, she says she knows he did it.
Yeah,
so she does know he did it.
She's saying that, and
I think she truly believes that.
Of course, she does.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's the mother's grief, she's blindsided. She only sees the one possible answer and wants justice for that. She's not considering any other possibility because this is a sure way to get what she wants, get the justice she thinks she deserves,
as they say on the show. Justice. So yeah, and then she's made a boat, I guess, for Marcella, a ship, and then he wants to send
birthday present.
Which again, that's what we see off in the sea. But I'm still just skeptical as far as how you're gonna send Marcella, who's lost to you, a ship, and there's no catch there, Trojan horse that's full of soldiers.
I think Oberyn would know what was on it.
Yeah, probably. And then Oberyn brings up again the whole like, we're not mean to little girls thing, which he's like brought up like 2 or 3 times.
Well, I mean, it left a bit of a scar.
Okay, so I think that pretty much touches on everything with Cersei, and actually that's everything that happened in King's Landing for this whole episode, as far as I remember.
Jamie was in the episode.
Nope, Jamie and Tyrion don't show up in this episode.
Huh.
Which is a first, not a first, but Tyrion's almost in every single episode. He's only not in a few.
Jamie's was like the first name in the credits, but maybe not.
Well, I mean, he might have been in the credits, but
they only have people included in the episode in the credits.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
but I don't really pay attention to that.
I do. I like name them as the name pops up in my head.
So to like connect the actor to the nice. Because I can never remember the names of the actors. I can barely remember the names of the characters. Then so we head across the sea. We're over in Marine. She's still hanging out in her giant pyramid, having a small council meeting. So we've seen a lot of those, and so Dario has apparently taken the Second Sons and has captured 90 ships, or stolen, or what from I guess some
the Myronese, the navy that was in that was in the water by Marine.
Okay. So
they took the city, and then he took the ships.
Okay. Saying that, hey, I heard you like ships. Kind of like offhand little comment there. So trying to be the cool guy in the table. Anyways, this essentially makes them mobile for the first time that they never were. They really walked everywhere up until now. So this allows them to move a lot faster than they were, and really actually gives them the option to actually go to Westeros that they didn't really have before.
Move her entire army right now.
So now she has the option, but she still chooses not to go. So that essentially, skipping over everything, she chooses not to go to Westeros to take over, saying, and everyone's telling her, hey, it's right for the picking, young kid on the throne, not everyone's tired, just finished a war, which is just kind of going on, but not really, and
everyone's scattered, and alliances are
so
weak. This
would be the best time, and no one's expecting it. You could just sail in.
It's not necessarily the best time because she still has a pretty small army compared to everyone else.
But she also has 3 dragons, which again they didn't even mention, which is odd
because they're not really battle ready yet. They're big, but they're not that big.
That's true. Probably a couple arrows probably taken.
In the books, what she says a lot is she wants to be able to ride them into war if she were she doesn't want to just have them as pets, but Oh,
yeah, that makes sense. We haven't seen them since the first episode of this season. Yeah. They literally have every time I see Dany and the dragons are around, where are they? What are they doing? Does she have someone taking care of them?
They're off hunting somewhere.
And then she just how does she call them back?
They just do their own thing.
Okay, then what good are they as weapons?
They always come home.
How do they know where home is? She's always moving. Anyway, that's those are minor grapes. I mean, I know why. Yeah, the budget doesn't allow for dragons on screen.
And they had a bit of ghost in this episode, right? So
well, again, but the dogs really aren't that much. I mean, it's minor compared to the dragons, which are completely CG, and the dogs are just, or the direwolves are just large dogs that they've filmed on a CG set and then enlarged and placed on the screen. So it still looks good though, the direwolves. But we find out that the last 2 cities she took, so was it Yunkai and Astapor, have fallen back into chaos now that she's left,
because she didn't really she just took over, took a bunch of slaves, and some people stayed and then left them to their own. Yeah, so
there's that Entertainment Weekly recap that I use sometimes to make my show notes.
Okay.
He had a funny little comment saying, the foreign policy of wrecking shit up, saying, hey, change, and then leaving, turns out doesn't work, but no one ever remembers that.
Yeah. Well, no, it was pretty short-sighted what she was.
Well, yeah, it's okay, come, everyone who wants to come, you can come. Everyone else, just stay. I'm sure you guys will figure it out. And then it turns out they didn't.
Yeah, she set up a council or whatever in Yunkai, I think it was.
And they got overthrown.
And then she did the same in Marine, and they were all overthrown as well, but...
By a butcher?
He was a butcher now, and he just decided to... He's a butcher, murderer,
Oh. I was thinking a person who cuts meat.
No, just an evil dude.
Oh.
And
are you sure?
He's calling himself King Cleon now.
Cleon?
Cleon.
Okay. I'm sure that'll come back around. I mean, you can't say, but... So she's decided to stay and rule the Slaver's Bay, essentially her reasoning is that, hey, if I can't even rule these 3 cities, how can I rule 7 kingdoms, right? Which, I mean, pretty smart. She just seems like she's a pretty smart girl. It just is, as a fan, like, speaking from the fan side, like, you just want her to get involved with what everything else is going on. It's annoying
because it just keeps her separated.
And so it's like, okay, so I guess we'll see her there for a while. And then my question is, okay, so then what is the cat, like, when does she feel like she's ready? Like, you know, it's like one of those people that's just like, it's like procrastinating. She just keeps putting it off and putting it off. Like, when does she, like, when she's 75, she's like, okay, my dragons are big enough now. I think we can go. Like, no, like, I don't know. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, like, what is going to be what actually finally makes her go, and I hope it's something at the end of the season. Even if the last shot is her getting onto ships, which was the last shot last season of her getting on a ship. Like, she was on a ship at the beginning of this or the season before.
The season before.
And so you're like, okay, sweet, she's going to do, and then she didn't actually go anywhere. No. Just Cypress Bay.
Well, she only had 3 ships.
Yeah. So now she has the ships. If it ends with a whole fleet sailing off into this, like, sunset, then, you know, then cool. I'll be like, all right, stoked. Season 5, here we go. Cool. Shit gets real. But I think I say that at the end of every season. So is there anything else about that I've missed? No, I think so. Unless you'll have anything to say about that scene.
No, I think it's just her advisors were kind of torn about it, but they all thought Jorah was the only one that cautioned her against going. Like, Barristan wants her to go back and take the throne.
Well, of course Barristan does. Yeah, he doesn't really like being in Essos, I don't think.
Yeah. Like, he's out of his place, right? He's a member of the Queen's Guard now, I guess, and he wants to be in King's Landing with her, doing what he's always done. But yeah, the army's not large enough yet. What remains of the Lannister armies could still,
I guess, yeah.
You know,
plus with help with the Tyrells too.
Yeah, exactly, and with the rest of the Southern Lords.
So we'll head over to the Eyrie, where almost pretty much the rest of everything the episode happens until we head over to the north. So first time we see the Bloody Gates, is what they're called, right?
The Bloody Gate.
The Bloody Gate. Okay, because there's only one. That makes sense. And it's allows access to the Vale. Is that
no? The whole area is the Vale. It's kind of like the north. The Vale is like the north. This one of the 7 kingdoms. The Eyrie is the name of the castle that's in charge of the Vale.
Oh.
It's like Winterfell is the keep that's in charge of the north.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then. And this castle, the Eyrie, is built on a mountain.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's surrounded by smaller mountains.
Surrounded by other mountains. It's just like it's always called impregnable. Like there's only one main entrance.
Except for Bronn. Bronn thinks he could do it.
Yeah. You'd have to like climb up, like rock climb for miles.
Yeah. I mean, if you can climb up an ice wall, you can climb up a mountain. And they keep saying that, right? Like the whole, hey, it's impregnable, nothing has ever beaten it, whatever, blah. Something will happen. Like, I feel like but your dragon could probably do pretty well.
Well, yeah.
Everyone keeps talking about, like, oh, they built this, like, what was the one that the castle got burnt?
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal. So it's like, oh, it couldn't be destroyed, blah blah blah, except for dragons. They didn't take
the
that into
dragons
account.
weren't a reality before when they built it.
Sure, I guess, but like, how do you build a castle that protects you from dragons? Like, I don't understand.
You can.
So then, like, the whole thing is like, oh, they didn't take into dragons into account. So everyone's built a castle that just can't protect you against a dragon. It literally melts stone.
It's a fucking dragon, man.
Okay, no, I'm just checking. I thought they said that referencing the fact that, you know, others have built castles that could, because it seems like, why is there only one?
The Harrenhal, they just built the largest and strongest castle like in history.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it was like almost as right away as soon as it was done is when Aegon landed, and then his dragons came, and they ended up having to burn Harren in his Harrenhal.
Okay, cool. That's why it's called Harrenhal. So what else? Okay, so Littlefinger. He's got Sansa there pretty quick. I mean, only 2 episodes to get there. This whole timetable,
a lot of stuff.
Timeline's really bothering me now. It's really getting muddled. But I mean,
they had to rush to it because I promise you don't want to see what was happening in between. It was a lot of boring crap of Sansa on a ship crying.
You're right. You're probably right. So he advises her to kind of put her hood up while they're walking through, because I guess even her Aunt Lysa. What's her first name? Is it Lysa Arryn?
Yeah.
Is that saying, hey, I don't want my own men to even know you're here, kind of thing.
Yeah, because people talk, you know.
Yeah. And so is it like a well-known fact that the Starks have red hair, or is it just that Sansa?
Well, no, she would be remarked, like the red hair, and like she looks fairer, she looks highborn.
Yeah.
No one's ever seen her around before. People know generally what Sansa Stark looks like, and there are people that in the Vale that would know her face.
No, she's never been there before.
Well, there are people that would still know her face for having visited Winterfell or vice versa.
Yeah.
And like from King's Landing as well. Like a lot of the lords came in for the tournament and stuff.
Okay, yeah, all right. So they go through the Bloody Gate. Even he mentions that every army that needs to attack the Eyrie has to go through down this road or whatever, and then they go up, which is pretty cool visual, the whole gate, and then seeing the Eyrie in the distance. And they go up and Lysa, the crazy one from season 1 with the
creepy kid.
The creepy kid. Anyway, so he's still there, but he's not quite as creepy because he's not suckling on his mom's boob. And the whole time, so they have the moon door, right? That's what it's called. That has the door they used to kill people there and execute them. They just push them out the window, and it's a hole in the floor.
Pretty sure it's called the Bloody Gate because blood from people falling out of the moon door lands on the gate. It doesn't make it look like it in the show. In the books, that's how it's described. I'm pretty sure. There's like 4 gates though, but then one of them is called the Bloody Gate because that's sometimes where people land.
Oh. Okay, that would be cool if that was... Anyway, that would be cool if that was the case. I don't think... the way they show it on the show doesn't make sense. Yeah, unless they flew in the wind. The whole time, like, so they come up and Littlefinger and Lysa are talking, and then her son Robin comes down. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, all you have to do is, like, stumble and you just fall out the window. Like, what you could...
There's no railing or anything.
They could close it. Like, there's clearly a door there to close
they just needed a little fresh air.
But I mean, like, the kid seems a little unhinged. I mean, so does she. But like the whole thing, it's like
he's not really sure on his feet either.
And then like grabs the toy that or the glass bird that Littlefinger brings him and just throws. Probably that makes sense, and throws it out the window.
No.
So I'm like, he was literally standing like less than a foot away. Could have just fallen, and that was just like one of those things. It's like in real life, it was just a green screen hole there.
Yeah.
But like
Oh yeah,
like, if I was standing next to it, I was like, there's no railing here. Like this, it would just. I would be standing as far away from that hole as possible. Much. And then so then we find out that Lysa and Littlefinger have had like a romance for like a long time.
Well, he grew up with them, right?
Okay.
He grew up. He was fostered by Catelyn and Lysa's father.
Okay.
So he grew up with them, and he was in love with Cat this whole time. And we already know what happened with Ned's older brother and all that stuff. But I guess Lysa like was in love with him the whole time as well, and then he was sent here to the Eyrie to marry her by Tywin.
Okay,
so that's
So now we're getting married right now, and we don't even see it. So finally, thank God we don't see a marriage on screen. But the big reveal here is that
she's a screamer.
Well, other than that, because she says that out loud. Yeah. But she says that she killed Jon Arryn.
Yes,
her ex-husband. I guess her former husband.
The former Hand of the King. That's kind of like what started everything.
Yeah. So exactly. So turns out he's the mastermind pretty behind everything that's gone on.
Behind a lot of shit. Also, he's not only got her to kill her husband, told her to send that letter to Catelyn saying it was the Lannisters, which started all that whole thing with their they never liked the Lannisters, which started their whole suspicion with the Lannisters, and then she captured Tyrion and all that stuff happened.
Let me just read this excerpt from that Entertainment Weekly thing that I use. So. Jon Arryn, who was the Hand of the King to Robert Baratheon, that event, who died before the show even started. He was like the first shot, like dead on the table. That event sent Robert to Winterfell to conscript Ned Stark. We've always assumed Cersei and Jaime killed Arryn because he learned about their incestuous relationship. Now we learn the truth. Littlefinger sneakily seduced Lysa and convinced her to poison her husband. I bet he also pushed Robert to tap Stark to replace him. Littlefinger then had Lysa write a letter to Catelyn and Ned the assassins. Write a letter to Catelyn and blaming the Lannisters for her husband's death. Littlefinger also told Catelyn and Ned the assassin's dagger used to try to kill Bran after his accident was last seen in the hands of Tyrion.
But it was Littlefinger's dagger.
Yeah.
That he said he lost to Tyrion.
Yeah. Catelyn then kidnapped Tyrion, then tried to have him executed in Lysa's court, provoking the Lannisters. Then Littlefinger betrayed Ned Stark, which led to his arrest and execution, and then boom, war.
Yeah.
So
he's been planning.
He was literally he's indirectly responsible for every single death that has happened on the show.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. I guess except for maybe the stuff up north.
Kind of directly for a lot. Well, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like indirectly on most things. Like he's indirectly responsible for the death of Joffrey. He didn't literally kill Joffrey, but he's indirectly responsible for it. He's pretty even more directly than indirectly. For that. But like. With lots of things, like he probably didn't want Ned to get his head cut off.
No, he probably did. He didn't want Catelyn to die though.
Yeah, well,
with Catelyn and Robb, like that. It was kind of just, it just happened, you know.
Yeah, we never saw his response to that whole thing.
We didn't. Well, that's because this whole scene, like, he's supposed to have been gone this whole time, right? Like, we don't really.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, but just maybe we will.
But like, knowing Littlefinger and like knowing the character, his reaction would be like, he probably would have been like pissed off that cat died because she was probably part of his plans for the future, whatever.
Yeah.
But it also would have been like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
You know, and then he's always like...
And he's not about revenge either, so like even if he was pissed, he's not going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to...
He's not going to avenge her death, he's just going to do what he has to do for him.
Yeah, so sorry I screwed up there. I actually read a line ahead on the thing. Oh. So anyway, Littlefinger also now has, like we said, killed Joffrey and has an alliance with the Tyrells. So, like, he has his hands in everyone's pies.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's why Varys said he's one of the most dangerous men in the Seven Kingdoms. Like, Varys didn't know about all this stuff, but he knew how dangerous Littlefinger was.
That's a good callback on that line.
Yeah.
So then, Sansa goes to bed listening to her aunt screaming, which is like that's such a weird
biggest
scene.
Turn off.
Yeah,
screaming like that.
So, but she said she was gonna go really loud.
I guess
she gave him fair warning. If you don't want to marry me, you can turn back now. And then we have another scene with Sansa and Lysa later, and they're talking it's kind of a nice conversation talking about Catelyn and how she had a sweet tooth just like Sansa does, and how she almost got fat, and then her dad had to tell her not to eat anything and all this stuff, and then she gets really crazy. Not that she wasn't before, but kind of gets like aggressive. She doesn't even know what Littlefinger's whole things was. She's like, are you pregnant with Littlefinger's kid? And he's then Sansa has a really sad line that I think was like, she's like literally crying, like she's like in her face, like, and how many times has Sansa said you're hurting me in some way, like a lot. And then she says like the whole thing, like he always tells me that I'm like a stupid girl and doesn't know anything and I'm a terrible liar and I should never lie, so I should always tell the truth. And it's just exemplifies all like the mental anguish she's gone through.
Yeah, those are things that she's saying about herself. Like obviously Littlefinger never said that to her, but like, those are things that she has said to herself at different times throughout the series.
Yeah, and
it was all just pushed into one. It was like just her getting all of her
and like
self-hatred out. Yeah,
like just self-anguish. Like she just doesn't have any faith in herself. Like she just
because she's been with it so much that she has no power to do anything about it.
It's like out of the fire and into the fire, like out of the firing pan into the fire. Because like she leaves King's Landing and things were crappy there. She was essentially a prisoner, and she comes here and she's essentially a prisoner again.
Yeah, it's her aunt. Yeah,
and now she's
probably not to the same extent as in King's Landing, where her aunt's just kind of bipolar about it. Like.
That's true, but now Lysa wants her to marry Robin, which is her cousin, right? Which wouldn't that be odd? Like, wouldn't people be like, "What's up with that?" Like, no,
probably not. Cousins marry.
Really, is that normal in this?
I'd say so. Thing? I guess they're not. Like, it would be more distant cousins, but it's not unheard of. I guess.
They're not blood related.
Yeah, they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes.
They are.
Yes, because that's
first cousins.
His sister's. Yeah, sister's son.
Yeah.
Or his mom's sister's son. Yeah.
They're first cousins.
So yeah, no, that's for sure not cool.
It's frowned upon here.
It's frowned upon there. They talk about like that's obviously like.
Well, the other thing, maybe she's marrying Robin under that name Elaine that they gave her. Maybe. I don't know. But no, because that wouldn't make sense either. Because she's like supposed to be a baseborn, just a bastard, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then I'm confused by that. It just seems like she's like, crap.
Well, I mean, her aunt's crazy, so she's not really thinking about the rest of it.
That's true.
You're gonna marry Robin, and that's what we're gonna do.
You're gonna be the Queen of the Vale, or something like that, or the.
Well, I guess if the Vale were its own kingdom, if the Seven Kingdoms broke up, then she would be the Queen of the Vale. Other than that, Robin is technically the Warden of the East, just like Tywin's the Warden of the West, and Roose Bolton is now Warden of the North.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 'cause I remember I see sometimes when I have to look things up. I'm like really like I'll literally only read the small like when I looked up who because I literally didn't remember who Jon Arryn was.
Okay.
The former Hand of the King, like we said before the show started. I looked up enough like the basic information and I didn't read anything else. Yeah, so
you gotta be real careful.
I'm like super careful. So yeah, like I don't even know what I was. Why was I saying that? Why was I talking about that?
Just like looking up when you looked up like the Warden of the North and stuff.
Yeah, so then I saw that he was the Warden of the East. And I was like, oh, so there's... Yeah, so who's the Warden of the South?
Mace Tyrell.
Of course. Which is... what's his name's brother?
No, this is Marjorie's father, is Mace Tyrell.
Oh, really? The South? What? I thought that the Dornish would have been the...
No, there's the Dornish, the Martells, and the Tyrells have a huge feud. But yeah, the Tyrells of Highgarden are the Wardens of the South.
Okay.
Again, Dorne's kind of more separate than any of the other kingdoms.
All right, that's fair. I just like, how do you know all this stuff? It's like it's crazy.
I'm like a fucking encyclopedia with this stuff.
Look, it's good. I like to know that. Like I'm all about like world building. Like love it.
Yeah, for sure.
What else happens? Oh, so the Hound and Arya. So
I forgot about that.
They're hanging out. They're on their way to the same place, so she's kind of telling her list and before they go to bed.
So I think she says the full list in this one, which, I mean, they omitted a few names from the book, but whatever, they're not important ones.
Characters that probably aren't even in the show.
Well, some of them had been, and I guess one of them is, like, the Tickler was one of them, but he died at Harrenhal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Things happen differently in the book, but the main ones are there, so...
And her list seems to be growing, and as quickly as it's, like, shrinking. Like, someone will die, and she'll, like, add someone on, like, right... So, So anyway, she's saying the whole list, and they're going, like, to sleep, and then the last one, obviously, the Hound is still on her list. And they have this thing about her killing her brother. Like, hey, if I saw my brother, I'd kill him. Mm-hmm. You know, which they talked about before, how he doesn't like his brother, right? Because he's the one who burned his face.
Yeah, and just like his brother's like
generally
one of the most evil guys. Yeah. He's had 3 wives, and they all died of suspicious means. Like, and so their dad also died. It was like it was a weird death and that kind of stuff.
And then he wakes up and find Arya practicing her water dancing, which looks cool. Mm-hmm. All just doesn't seem very effective in like real combat.
Well, it would be if she was better at it.
I guess. I mean, the Hound apparently subscribes to the same school of fighting as Bronn. Yeah. Where do whatever you can to win, which makes sense because it's your life on the line when that's the case. And he has a great line. He's like, Meryn Trent, who's the guy who killed Syrio Forel, won because he had armor and a big fucking sword. Yeah. And Syrio Forel had
It's not clear if Syrio died. It's also not clear in the books. I've just always kind of been hoping that he didn't die because he's kind of like it's off camera though, and it's like,
don't you hear a scream?
No,
like you don't. No.
She just goes. Well, you hear a lot of screaming because that's when all the North, like the Winterfell men are dying. Yeah. But it's like in the book and in the show, it kind of just like she leaves and he's like talking to them and beating them up. Like in the books, he actually kills a couple of them with the wooden sword before the guy breaks it, and then that's the last thing she sees. And I've always like been hoping that he's still alive because he's pretty cool. Okay, and he's the first sword of Braavos. He's supposed to be a badass. So
the first. What does that mean?
The first sword of Braavos is just like a
title,
like a badass sword fighter. He would be protecting the Sea Lord of Braavos.
Okay.
He's essentially like one of the Kingsguard, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. I thought that he was for sure dead. To be honest.
Yeah. He probably is.
And like, who is Meryn Trent anyway? Like,
he's one of the Kingsguard.
He just hangs out with Jaime a lot. Like,
well, no, there's the Kingsguard. There should be 5 of them or 7 of them, something like that.
Yeah.
They really don't do a lot of their names. Sir Meryn, Sir Boros, and then Sir Mandon Moore is the one who tried to kill Tyrion, and then Podrick killed him.
Oh, okay.
That was this episode too that he was talking about it, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's the next scene.
Oh, okay.
It's cool. Good. That's.
See, now I'm remembering.
We hadn't quite moved over there yet, but.
Sir Meryn is the one also that in season 1 that backhands Sansa. He's the one with that like kind of weird beard, like the shaggy-ish beard and like that weird hair like this.
Yeah. Because people know what you're talking about.
So podcast listeners.
Very visual medium. So like, it's cool because she's now like literally learned how to kill from like this guy, like the Syrio, who's very like honor and like fancy style and
precision.
Yeah,
like,
and
he's
then
all about like being nimble rather than being strong.
And now you have the Hound, who's all about like strong and like just do whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you have what's his name from season 2,
Jaqen H'ghar,
who's like about sneakiness and like using like deceptive methods. I guess I don't know. We never really know how he does what he does, but like. So she's like has a full, well-rounded.
Well, that's the thing. Like Arya, she's obsessed with death and with killing. Like killing the people that she thinks have wronged her.
Yeah, and a Hound has nothing wrong with that. He's like, hey, anger works. Yeah. But like, anyway, it's interesting because like their relationship's so like complicated. It's and it's going layers again. But like last episode, I think he was pissed off at him, or is that maybe 2 episodes ago, about the whole like farmer thing.
Yeah.
And then he's still on her list. He's still on his on her list, and like she literally tries to kill him. Like she stabs at him. She's just
not strong enough.
Yeah, and his armor is just too thick.
Yeah,
and her sword's tiny. So And then he hits her, which I don't think he's ever done before. Maybe not like
that, but like, she tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just such an interesting relationship. It's like obviously they need each other in some way. I think Aria probably needs the mountain more than the mountain needs Aria. I said the mountain, right? Yeah. I meant the hound.
She needs him like to survive, basically.
Yeah.
At this point, and he
just wants money, which he says. But I think he kind of likes her, and not like that kind of like the creepy kind of way, but like
he likes Sansa in the creepy kind of way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I remember that he's like, "Hey, I'll get you out of here," and she's like, "No, you're rude. You're creepy. You look at your face." And then we have Bran and Podrick, which is probably one of going to be my favorite like pairing for like the next little while.
Couple, yeah.
It's pretty funny. Like he's like riding the horse and just like wandering around, and the way that they shoot it is great.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of always going off screen, and they kind of talking about how he's never really done much squiring, like actual squiring, like just pours a lot of wine. Yeah. Doesn't even cook. Like he just like that's the cook's job. And but then they kind of get like she kind of gets some respect for him when he tells her that he killed a guy at the Blackwater, and I think it'll just be like a nice like lighthearted. I think mostly lighthearted. It could get dark because every time something's nice, it gets ruined. So for now, but at least
and in that scene they say that they're on the way to the wall.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
That they think Sansa's headed to the wall, which is
she's after Sansa, right? Yeah. So she'll go there. She knows her brother's at the wall. Yeah. Everyone knows that apparently.
Well, Jon Snow, everyone knew he took the black.
Yeah. And so that's where he is, which should take a long time. But like I said, the whole timeline thing is a little messed up. They have horses, so they're not like walking. But it should literally took a whole season for.
Well, she said it could take like a week to get there.
Really?
That's what she said. Like a week of riding.
Oh, okay.
To get
so
to the
like
wall.
2 weeks of actual time.
Yeah.
But like whatever that means in showtime is literally I have no idea anymore. So, is there anything else you want to say about that one? That's kind of just like a pretty nice little scene. Nothing much going on there.
It's just reminding you that happened.
Yeah, I'm surprised we even touched on them this week, especially because we last dealt with like that whole thing last week. So, usually like you get a week to breathe.
Give a little space,
yeah. So we'll move to Craster's Keep, where I guess the big action stuff happened. Like I said, a lot of what we talked about, like for like. Brandon Podrick and like Hound and Aria, like literally nothing happened. Like you made a lot of character work and development there.
Yeah, Cersei and all that stuff. Like the plot of the overarching plot didn't really move at all.
Like you could literally almost all this stuff could have happened last week. Like you could just play like if it could have been a 2-hour episode and like or whatever. I mean, it would make like
a lot of this stuff like you could have just assumed happened.
Yeah, like and it's like guess what? They're still on the way or they're you know, but like, and even with this like things have reset to some degree. Like. Mm-hmm. Some stuff was going on, like they were going north of the wall, and now they're going back, and no, nothing's happened. I mean, so Craster's Keep, we see I think the first scene up there is what's his name, Locke. He's kind of like scoping things out, being a sneaky dude.
Yeah.
Kind of like goes in, checks to see where Bran and all them are. And this cool scene where they hear something and they look and no one's there, and. So they're going to go attack at nightfall. So night comes and then they attack like first thing. But before that, you have Carl. I looked this up on
it is Carl,
on the IMDb's Carl, which is such a non-IMDb or Game of Thrones name.
Yeah, I know.
But it's spelled with a K, so it's Karl.
I don't know if it's the same character, but there was a dude in the books named Coyle. Quoyl. Or
is that maybe that fat guy?
YLE. Well, that's Rast.
Oh,
that's the same. That's the actual character.
Okay. So Carl.
Yeah.
Played by I think his last name is Rust.
His name is Byrne. His first name is Byrne.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite character actors.
Gorman or something.
Byrne Gorman. Right.
Something along those lines.
I wish I could remember names. Anyway, so he has this like really like creepy scene. It's really tense where he's going in that same tent and he's got Bran and all his friends tied up, and it's tense for like a couple reasons. Mostly because we know that Bran and Jon are like really close together, right? And they're like literally the same place.
Second time.
And they're like, okay, things might get. They might actually meet this time. So you're like, oh yeah. And then 2, because Locke knows exactly where they are. Mm-hmm. You know what he's up to. And 3, because Carl's about to rape Mira.
Because he's
right in front of them.
Yeah. And then kill her.
And then kill her. And then also because Georgian gives him this like cool thing, like how he like. shows like, hey, I can see the future, and I see that you're gonna die today, and your bones will burn, and snow will fall and bury them, or something really cool like that. I'm starting to kind of have like lose faith in Jojen as like someone to believe in, because he seems pretty crazy. Like he's sitting there and he's like looking at his hand, and it's like burning.
See, that's okay. Like what was interesting for me about that is that was before he wasn't talking to Carl at that point. He was talking to Bran and them, and they're saying, "Is this how he died?" He says, "This is not the end. You'll know. I'll know when it's the end." And they ask him how he's gonna know, and he's just looking at his hand burning. So does that mean he dies by fire or something like that? I don't know, but
yeah. And he said something about like you'll know it when you're there.
Yeah,
you'll know it when you see it. So then. Perfect timing, of course. As soon as the bad shit's about to happen, someone's going to get killed. He's like, oh, here's like sounds of fighting outside. So Locke, I guess, uses the distraction of the attack to go and kidnap Bran, and so he like throws him on his shoulder, and then like as he's doing that, I guess Jojen gives him like a do it, man,
do it, man,
like a little nod, and then like so he uses the warging and wargs with Hodor, like we saw in the recap. Which is always handy. We kind of figured that was coming. And then he breaks out of the chains and with one hand snaps his neck. Yeah. Like lifts him up and snaps his neck.
Wait, lifts him like with one hand, then use the other hand to just tweak it.
But still,
like, Hodor is super strong. Turns out
half a giant is what they said.
Well, no, that's just whatever. But he's supposed to be one of the largest men in the Seven Kingdoms, other than like the Mountain and a couple others.
This is not really affecting. Like, does he remember what happens when these things? Like, I don't know if they talk about this.
It seemed kind of like he did this.
Yeah, like, oh, what did I just do? You know.
Well, I mean, this is also kind of pretty much the first time Bran had to do that, like, to really make him do anything. The other time he just made him like lie down.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's true. I hope he doesn't do too much. I like Hodor kind of as Hodor.
Hodor's pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. Hodor's Hodor, you know. And so what else happens? Oh, then Jon. And Carl get into a fight, and it's pretty much the coolest fight.
It's pretty sweet, yeah.
Carl with those knives is badass. Like he like does like a flippity with them, like a flippity flip.
A flippity flip.
and I'm like thinking like while this fight's happening, like, you know what, 2 knives could probably beat a sword pretty easily. Like one bigger sword,
especially in like close quarters like that. Yeah.
And turns out they can, and he's kind of outmatched, which we haven't really seen as far as like combat wise with Jon.
He's been pretty badass so far. But.
Yeah, and so. If it wasn't for one of the wives of Craster, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
But of course, actually not of course, because he could have died there. With this show, you never know.
Yeah.
But with Jon, it seems like there's bigger things yet to come. And then, so again, convenient, like, stabs him so Carl gets all angry and then goes to, like, I guess, kill her. And then right before she's going to get killed, right before, like same like how Jon was, he gets stabbed through the head. Through
his mouth, yeah.
Yeah. Which was pretty badass.
It's kind of a weird way to stab someone, though. You know.
I mean, well, maybe like if you stab them in the back, like, or somewhere, like, what are you gonna do? Like, chop off her head, like his head? Like, what's
done a lot of things. I don't think I would ever think to stab someone in the back of their head.
Well, that's the fastest. Well, that's the fastest way to kill someone. You'd think, right? I mean, other than chopping it.
But chopping a sword like that, like.
Why is that? No, because you want to hold it. You still want to hold it in case he turns around in time. You want to hold it the same way you would normally. Like, you wouldn't flip it around and use it like to stab like a knife.
I feel like you go for the larger target, which is the back and the chest.
Yeah, but like you could maybe still like survive that to some degree, or be able to get like a last like ditch like attack, you know. There's no way you're coming, like, if you have the time to set it up and stab someone through the back of the neck and skull and head, like there's just nothing. That's it. It's over.
Well, for sure.
Because like you see other people, I guess you see other people die pretty easily. Like in the first fight, like ting ting, and then like one hack and like they're dead. Like they'll just fall over. But I guess that's just like TV sword fighting. I don't know how it works.
Maybe it doesn't mean that they're dead right away. It means they're dying.
So what else? So 2 villains were actually killed in this. Like 2 people we didn't like. No one really liked Carl. He's like the epitome of evil. We talked about that last week, like with all the raping and drinking wine out of skulls. But like Locke, who we thought like, you know, that might have been like an ongoing plot, he's dead. So
yeah, I thought that would last longer too.
Bran is now kind of like safe from that for now. I guess so is Rickon,
yeah.
Because can you remind me, what's Ramsay doing? He's off to go talk to the Greyjoys, right?
Yeah, well, he's going to talk to the Iron Man at Moat Cailin, which is south of all that stuff.
So
so right before this.
He's not dealing with the Starks.
No,
right. So they're safe from that for now. Yeah. Which I thought, like, and that was only like a couple episodes ago that whole mission even started. Yeah. So it's weird, like, they introduce these
subplots
and then, like, tie them up so quickly.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, there's all that stuff is new. That's not in the books, right? So they added it in for extra content because it's kind of boring. What happens? Like, Bran is pretty much just walking north, you know, like, and it's just like come across this wildling village. It's just a bunch of snow, and then nothing happens. You know, like, some of them can be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Or like whatever, right? But so they added these 2 storylines about them going to Craster's and then the mutineers and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and then it just seems so rushed and just like.
And then the whole thing is like Bran like sees Jon fighting. He's like, oh, you know, I want to go talk to him, and then and then Jojen's like, no, you shouldn't. I mean, like the
because Jon would for sure take him back.
Yeah, and which makes sense. I mean, the reasoning's sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like you talk to him, and he's gonna be like, no, you're not going that way. I've clearly seen what's over there. It's not good.
Yeah. So
you're not going, like, and he's crippled. What's he gonna do? Like,
exactly.
So, it makes sense. It just seems so artificial. Like, especially because you say it's not out of the book. It's just like,
well, yeah. The thing you add this kind of stuff, which is great. Actually, I liked both these storylines. I thought it would be cool, like the way they kind of almost meet up again, whatever. But it feels so rushed because there are other things that the characters have to get to now. And there's not a lot of space in between, so they had to rush through these stories.
It's like resets. Okay, so now Bran and his crew are just on their way back, and Summer's fine, and everyone's just going. And then you have, I guess, Jon's just gonna head back to the Wall, and he's got Ghost back, and everyone's happy. Like,
that's exactly
that's not happy, but like everything's back to how it was at the beginning of the season.
Pretty much.
That's exactly what it was going on. Yeah, literally nothing's changed.
Yeah, I mean, for this part of the book, I mean, things happen in a different order, and it's a lot faster, I guess, but.
I mean, I can't complain. I'm not saying that, you know, just because nothing changed that it's not like wasn't interesting.
Yeah, it was. I just thought it would last a bit longer.
So
both of those storylines, but they had to make room for what's coming up, I guess.
So you were talking Rast, the fat one, and so he gets killed by Ghost in a pretty cool scene.
Yeah,
it's pretty quick. You're like, oh, what's this little hut? Like, rah!
Well, he was kind of taunting Ghost at that hut the other episode.
Oh, that one? Because that's what that was.
He poured the water out in front of him.
He was looking at it, like, that dog's the ghost. They're not there anymore. The direwolf, and then there it is.
Yeah,
and then Jon and Ghost get like a little reunion, which is nice. Because I guess Ghost does his own thing, but like kind of. Right, that's this whole thing.
Well, he was stuck, like because he didn't go with Jon with the wildlings and all that stuff, right? So and he was with the Night's Watch, and then after all the crap happened in Craster's, I guess they caught him, right?
Yeah,
that's what they had him.
Well, he was hanging out. He was stayed with the Night's Watch.
Yeah, he kind of stayed with Sam and them.
Okay, huh? I didn't know that. I guess I kind of thought he was just doing his own thing.
They don't really reference it, but like, yeah, Jon couldn't.
I really want to know what's going on with Shaggy Dog. Is he still living in the basement of Winterfell?
No, he's with Rickon.
Really?
Yeah, he was with them the whole time. They had 2 for a while.
Oh,
they had Summer and Shaggy Dog.
I thought it was only Summer. Maybe I want to know what's going on with Aria's.
Nymeria.
Me too. That would be pretty cool. Does that? I guess you can't tell me, but also, never mind. Just don't say anything. So yeah, I mentioned already with that the whole Jojen. The seems like he's kind of crazy. It's hard to say. Like he's again, I said unhinged earlier. He's like he's coming a little unhinged.
Well, yeah. Well, his whole power has never been like 100%, and it's always it's
he
always
goes into
subtle.
seizures, like you know, you don't know what he's seeing. I guess you kind of did.
Like one of the things that he sees, because he's supposed to be at Winterfell when the Ironborn attack. Like one of his visions is kind of like a dream that he has, and he said he saw the sea wash up over the walls of Winterfell and drown a bunch of people.
Oh,
right. Okay. So that's like the Ironborn represented as the sea. Like it's all kind of vague like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. Maybe that was Bran though.
He has visions too.
Kind of like Bran has those weird prophetic dreams as well.
So I will get to the notable exceptions as we do every week. Still no Greyjoys. This is really like we haven't not once this season have we seen what's the name of his daughter?
Yara in the show.
So we haven't seen her once. Mm-hmm. That was like one of the big plot lines at the end of last season.
At the last episode of last season, she said she's going to Winterfell to free her.
And it's 5. We're halfway through the season. We have not seen her one time.
Or Balon Greyjoy, who is one of the last. That's still like one of the kings of the War of the Five Kings.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like that's weird to me. Like I mean maybe it's for keeping it for concise storytelling. They want to keep everything that was going on. Maybe the side plot with the stuff in the north. Mm-hmm. They want to keep that like. Play it out so that they could get it done in 5 episodes. So maybe this stuff can take over and they can really concentrate on that for the next 5 or something. It just seems odd that you wouldn't even touch on it for 5 episodes. And then, like I said, we mentioned before, no Tyrion, no Jaime. Having no Tyrion is, like I said, big deal, as he's almost in every episode. Obviously, fan favorite. Yeah. Peter Dinklage is pretty awesome. And no Stannis, but again, he's just probably being sad over in his castle. So, Is there anything I'm missing? Is there anyone else?
I mean, Daenerys is kind of just puttering around, but
she's there. We see her.
We see her, and like just not a lot is happening.
Yeah, that's the theme of this episode. Not a lot's happening,
Yeah.
but we're talking about not a lot happening.
Fair enough.
I mean, like literally, the characters are talking about how not a lot's happening. And then it's okay. Overall impressions.
I don't know. Another slower one for me.
Well, I mean,
4 and 5 were slower.
It's been pretty like. It's been like almost in between. Like you'll get like a slow one, a good one, a slow one.
I think 1, 2, and 3 were a bit of a higher, like a faster paced episodes.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, and 3 were kind of, I was like really excited. And then 4 and 5 kind of slowed down a bit. They were still good, and they still had some great character points in it. But I want to see things get moving.
I'm liking the whole give us the answer to mysteries thing. I'm liking that whole.
Yeah, but
that I was thinking about John Aaron, but like
the original murder mystery.
Yeah. The original whodunit, which we already assumed we thought it was, I guess, Cersei the whole time.
Yeah.
I literally don't even remember considering, like, going back and watching and probably be like, with this knowledge now, it'd be really interesting.
In like the first or second episode, probably the first. That's the reason Ned, or one of the reasons Ned agrees to become King's Hand, is to find out what happened to John Aaron.
Because that's his wife's sister's husband, right?
Well, so also John Aaron fostered both Ned and Robert Baratheon at the Eyrie when they were kids.
Oh, really?
Just like Peter was, like Littlefinger was fostered by Tully with Catelyn and Lysa.
Who's what?
John Aaron,
was
Warden of the East at the Eyrie. Had Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon as children in the Eyrie fostered.
Is this like a normal thing that they do in Westeros?
Yeah.
Kinda like
it's you honor somebody by letting them foster your child.
Oh, okay. Kind of like how not the same way. How
no,
Theon
was a ward.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like a
Robin to Superman or to Batman.
Yeah.
Well, not really. I was just like they call him the ward. I just either way or
a ward means like he's in under his protection. So Theon was left under Ned's protection under the pretense that Balon would never rise up against them again.
Which didn't work very well.
Well, it did while it lasted until Ned died.
That's true. And what did I think? I pretty much said everything. Like I thought it was. The pacing in this episode was great. Like I really think everything flowed together really well.
Mm-hmm. It jumped around a lot. But it didn't seem too rushed.
I think maybe it was because they did it geographically. How they went. King's Landing. Started here with it. Like first of his name was obviously reference to the Tommen and his ceremony. Stuck with that. Boom, moving over to the Eyrie. Then we deal with everything in the Eyrie and people moving to the Eyrie or near it. So we have the Hound and Aria, and then you have I guess Brienne and Pod to kind of break things up. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know. They're kind of maybe in the same idea. The visuals are similar
than anything else.
And then when you move to the north, it's everything's just like boom, 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 and it's. I mean, I guess there was the Dany thing in between.
That's kind of how it has to work because everyone gets so spaced out, Yeah. That's I told you how a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is third and fourth book because the end of the third book kind of overlaps with the beginning of the fourth because they're separated geographically rather than by temporally. That's why you're also confused about the timeline because it seems like so quick, but it's just because that's when you're touching on those characters.
So last week, I mentioned, what did I say?
Yeah, I know.
I said if Jon gets to the wall, if he gets to there in one episode, I'll be pissed. I was like, but it turns out they did have horses. So 60 miles on 60 miles on horseback is a long way.
I thought it was pretty quickly. I thought we would have an episode in between. That's why I said all those little extra stories felt so rushed because it's just like, oh yeah, now they're there. And if things were that easy, then his whole ranging and then Sam getting back to Wall shouldn't have been so long.
It took forever.
Yeah,
it took a whole season.
Yeah,
so it's like exactly that's what I mean.
And how far did Jon go with the wildlings? Because they're not even close yet. And if they can move this fast, why can't the wildlings be there already?
And especially because they're used to that terrain.
Yeah,
or
they know exactly
what
they're doing.
What are they doing over there? Like they're waiting. They're building up. They're digging a lot of firewood so they can build the biggest bonfire the world has ever seen. They're just spending this whole time gathering firewood. Like I said, I like the pacing. Great character work. I really liked. Like I said, the scene with Cersei and Marjorie. But again, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more plot progression, at least in some of the main plots.
What's the next episode called?
The next episode is called "The Laws of Gods and Men." I don't know. That means nothing to me. Other than they've said that before in the show.
Well, maybe the trial.
Oh yeah, but I mean, again, don't.
Well, no, that's what I'm just assuming. I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be cool.
That's one of the big ones that people want to see, right? And a fortnight is 20 days, so if all this other crap can happen within a week's time.
Exactly. speaking of a fortnight, so I forgot to mention this. So Cersei wanted to get Tommen and Marjorie married within a fortnight of the trial, and then
marry Sir Loras a fortnight after that.
Yeah.
Just to get things moving.
I'll be surprised if she actually marries Loras. Very surprised.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, this episode is directed by I can't remember her name offhand, but she directed a lot of episodes of Breaking Bad. I can look it up, but I mean, she directed a lot of episodes of Breaking Bad. She's really good, and she's actually done a lot of the really good episodes of Game of Thrones. So, I mean, she's still doing a really good job as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. And how much time do we have? Oh, exactly at an hour, almost at 57 minutes. So I'll kind of do the closing stuff. Make sure to listen to our flagship podcast, recording that tonight. So the Tower Babble podcast. That's also on iTunes and Stitcher. So if you like this stuff, we talk a lot about comic books, video games.
Michelle McLaren.
Yes. So she
directed the last one as well, but that's her. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's tonight. It should be up in a couple days, if not tomorrow. Tomorrow being Tuesday, May 6th. And follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. Send us any questions, comments, anything like that to our Gmail account, which is towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com.
Or comment on the site, or pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere, exactly. And yeah, check the site for Dan's reviews. He usually puts those up in a day or two after the episode airs. Yeah. Anything else you want to mention before we close it out?
No, I'm just excited for things to get moving. I am excited for the trial. I just looked at all the other episode names, and that seems to be the one.
I'm purposely not looking at the episode title. Don't read them to me. I don't want to know.
I'm not going to read them to you. I just want to look at them. They're pretty vague. You can't...
Well, they blocked out episodes...
9 and 10 are on there now.
9 and 10, so I don't even want to look.
Don't look at them.
Not even going to look at them. But anyway, I'll look at them, I guess, after the week
when you
before.
have to.
Yeah, so I always need to know what the next episode's called so I can do this. Join us next week for Season 4, Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men. Right. So we'll see you then.
See ya.
Today's Game of Thrones theme was played by Charlie Parra del Riego.